and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but it's not limited to, my home dog. My home dog? My homeboy? My dude? And my sidekick. What's poppin', Berkey? How you doing?
Mahomes.
Oh, man.
Mahomes.
This is my least favorite Monday of the year so far.
Why is that?
It's not even close.
Why is that?
Well, aside from mourning the Steelers' loss, I, believe it or not, I know this is going to sound ridiculous coming from me, but I am not excited about dancing on the grave of Vertucci here. Not, like, we have a lot of fun here, you know?
Not a news source.
We're not a news source. Higher, lower. We have a good time. We flirt with being a serious outlet from time to time when the hat is necessary to wear, if you will, you know, cheating allegations, whatever. We're happy to get our hands dirty. But man, there are just certain subjects it's like I don't want to have to dig in deep to this type of shit. And
like the Steelers losing.
Like the Steelers losing, yeah. I mean, real funeral for that. No, but like, you know, these types of issues that you know are much bigger than us on a social scale, where there's a power imbalance and you know people are being taken advantage of or feel threatened in some sort of capacity. It's like this is serious stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really, really, really hard for me to not just reduce Nick down to the butt of the simplest of jokes. You know, it's like, I mean,
we're going to do a little.
I mean, the jokes gotta fly, people. You know, it's like,
yeah.
We'll get to that though at the middle part of the show, if you will.
You know, me and you, we are very similar.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Last night, watching that game, we think we're gonna win. You know, it's like, come on, I've got the defense, so you just got to stop them from getting in the end zone. We had everything planned. We picked out, like, they're just gonna win. We're gonna come in here decked out black and gold.
Yeah.
They lose. What do? We wear the most beige.
Yep.
We
beige
did not plan this at all. I swear. We're like, I'm wearing the most bland shit I can find.
Yeah,
the guy's emotionally surrendered.
I got to disassociate myself for a day.
So sad.
We do have a fun show for you guys today in the early part. An interesting show for you guys on the back end, joined by Andrew Barber, who's going to come in. And coincidentally enough, we're actually going to be talking about good faith discussions, which is something that maybe has come across as something that I'm very interested in. I think Barber is one of the better sources out there. And then for the chunky middle part of it, we're actually just going to dive in headfirst to everything that's been happening on the Twitter sphere as far as Vertucci getting called out for some
orange emojis,
some out of line behavior, if you will. But before we get to all that, have a little bit of house cleaning to catch up on. We are running a giveaway for the NAPT. That's the North American Poker Tour, for those of you who may not know. And we're going to be giving away one gold pass. For anybody who's unaware of what gold passes are, I'm not sure when this originated, but it really gained popularity during the PCA 25K. They gave away hundreds of them. They're giving away 100 of them this time for the NAPT main event.
They were platinum passes back then.
Correct, yeah. 25K is platinum, 5K gold. So
10K package, though.
It is a 10K package. So the total package is a $5,300 buy-in, $1,700 in cash, as well as whatever the remainder is in your hotel stay and amenities. flight expenses and whatnot. So you'll be taken care of if you win this Gold Pass. It's not just us giving it away. Also, I believe Nick Wright's contest is currently live. Conrad's going to be heading to Run Good Reno.
Ooh-wee. And they got one up top for Player of the Series. And I need that. I don't
think you qualify.
You just relax your ass, okay?
What if he's the Player of the Series?
Because
I see.
I got to grind for that.
Okay.
All right, so we're out there this weekend. Actually, this week. I'm sorry. I'm leaving tonight, going to Reno from the 8th to the 13th, I believe it is, at Atlantis.
That's correct.
And we are going to get it popping. $600 main, $150K guarantee.
Yeah. If you guys need room rates, $79 midweek is the poker rate, $129 is the weekend. So be sure to check that out if you're interested in trying to win a Gold Pass through the Run Good series. If you want to win ours, we're getting a little creative. Conrad and I put our heads together. We were like, let's not make it too easy.
Yeah, I don't want no easy shit.
Let's get some content out of this.
That's true.
There was an early announcement of the Runner coming back. They had to retract that. It's too soon.
That's sad.
We're not ready for it yet. So we're going to fill in the blanks. And we're going to give you a Runner-esque, maybe a Saw-esque, if you will.
More Saw.
Type of puzzle.
Without the injury.
That's right. So
nobody has to cut any limbs off.
Right, you're not going to have to mutilate anything, but you're going to have to use your little noodle upstairs. So the way this is going to work is we're going to drop some clues throughout the weeks on our Twitter. If you're not following, it's at onlyfriends_pod. When we drop those clues, we will then follow up the following day on this podcast and give you another hint. So today was the first clue. If it hasn't dropped already, it should have. It dropped at 12:15. It's just a simple visual clue, nothing too elaborate.
Nope.
A lot to read into there, just put that one in your memory bank as more clues come forward. So eventually you guys are going to end up getting, I believe it's 5 total clues. From there, that will lead you to the final question. And whoever answers that question first will be the winner of the Gold Pass. We will announce that winner here on the podcast whenever it does come to fruition. Of course, there are some disclaimers. You must be 21 or older. The prize is strictly non-transferable. No cash or other alternative is available to the winner. And then, there's some legal speak. PokerStars and Gaming or Genting Casino are not sponsors of and have no obligation or liability in connection with the administration or promotion. Prize winner agrees to bound by PokerStars general customer terms. The PokerStar Live team and conditions and the teams of conditions getting Genting Casino, the owner of Resorts World Las Vegas and operator of NAPT Las Vegas. I don't know if I need to read that. I'm just going to do it once.
That's fine.
I won't do it again.
I was going to, I was trying to get my little brother to get, follow this jigsaw puzzle, but I guess not.
Why?
He's not 21.
He's not 21? I'm sorry. He is 21.
Oh, he's 21?
But it's non-transferable.
Oh,
I gotcha. Yep.
Trying to get him to do your dirty work. I understand. Also, alongside the NAPT, just to give you guys a little bit of an update for what they have planned during this series, begins early November. There's going to be a ladies game, it's a ladies event. My apologies. That is going to actually come with a guarantee. So people have been asking for guaranteed women's events. Jen Shahade is going to help put this one on. Looks like it's a 3:30 buy-in with a $30,000 guarantee, November 5th, 12:30 p.m. at Resorts. So be sure, if you are planning to come out, put that one on your schedule. Couldn't come at a better time to announce that, really. With all the bad will that's going on in the poker community, a little goodwill showed here by Stars and Resorts World. We appreciate that. And before we get to the main talking point, because I'm already exhausted thinking about it, I'm going to tickle your fancy a little bit with
relax, bro.
With a little sports ball.
Yes.
Because yesterday marked the baseball playoffs. They're rolling in full force.
Man, do I love baseball
This
playoffs.
Padres-Dodgers rivalry is fucking heated.
I love crazy.
They hate each other.
They really do.
Starting
So good.
pitcher for the Dodgers told Machado to sit the fuck down after striking him out.
AJ Burnett-esque.
Yes, very, very AJ Burnett-esque. But here, what we're about to see that we have queued up is a home run. Or is it?
Bats. is lifted in the air to left field. It sends Profar back, tiptoeing to the corner. He's at the wall. It is. Nobody's
That's
sure
just
yet.
mean.
Now they say
He caught it.
he caught it. Mookie Betts is rounding the bases, thinking that it's a home run. Jurickson Profar
I mean, it's just
says,
mean.
That's hilarious.
He
That's so
was-
good.
He was doing the old, I'm going to just milk this for about 15 seconds. Watch this.
Respect to the
He
announcer.
goes in. I thought he caught it the first time, but the way he was reacting, I'm with you. So he catches that ball. Now he's just going to play how, you know.
He snagged that back so
I'm gonna
quick.
talk to the fans a little
I
bit,
love
bounce up and
the
down. I'm
troll,
gonna go
man.
let my teammates
Respect to
know
the
I'm down.
announcer for not finishing off the God.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you got to have a lot of patience there to
Right.
just say, I'm not going to be the guy who gets this call wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, that led to a heated next few innings, to say the least.
I loved it. Like people.
Wait, is this grounds to get beaned like next time you're up?
Well,
shouldn't be.
the fans in left field attempted. They threw a ball at him.
Did they really?
Later in the game, they had to stop the game. It was
I mean,
incredible.
come on. Like this, like make baseball fun again.
Right.
Like this is why I love like playoff baseball. You finally see the emotions come out in these players, right? Like, you know, they're playing 162 games. You can't get too high. You can't get too low. Sure, you have a walk-off. You kind of see, you know, people get excited.
Now
But for
it
the most
matters.
part, they try to stay even kill. Man, did you see when Harper hit that home run yesterday? He's
a
fired
dog.
up,
He's
right?
great.
He's a
Psychopath.
dog. He's an absolute dog.
He
Harper
really is.
dog.
Dog. Castellanos, dog.
Profar, dog.
Yeah, it was wild, and like that you know, the Mets and Phillies, they hate each other too. It's great.
Yeah.
Like to have these two huge rivals playing each other in the divisional series, it's so much fun to watch. They were going back and forth in that Phillies game.
Great TV.
Mets game, and
I saw a stat
Philly
line
came
that
out
the
on
Mets
top.
and the Phillies, after all this time, have been like stone 50-50.
Yeah, and they've never played in the playoffs till now, which is incredible.
What?
Never.
I didn't even know that.
Remarkable.
That's insanity.
That what? Oh,
They've
the-
never played in the playoffs till now.
the Philly and
Mets.
Yeah.
They're having a good old fucking series so far. The
Yeah.
first game
Well,
was,
they've never been good at the same time.
Exactly, and maybe when they were.
It was only one team. Like in the 80s when the Mets.
Yeah,
and
there was
Phillies
only
were-
two. There was only
Yeah.
two divisions, and they were in the same division.
Hey, speaking of the Phillies and the Mets, did you guys see Ryan DePaulo's tweet?
Yes, dude, yes.
Philly fans have to be the
unbelievable,
most in the streets guys that like.
Yeah,
out
right
there.
up there with Mets fans.
I mean, they're just turning around, just telling him to fuck off. I didn't know if these were his friends or if these are
No,
just
no.
random
No,
people
those are
telling
random
him to like
people.
go fuck off.
the Venn diagram of like Philly fans and Met fans is like so
Nah.
overlapped by like saying fuck you to a stranger.
I think it's
I mean, that's
skewed
just
towards
New
Philly.
York, but it definitely goes toward Philly.
I don't know.
They threw snowballs at Santa Claus, man.
I'm just saying.
Dude, yeah, those kids are aggro, man.
I'm just saying they would all tell someone to fuck off.
Yeah.
That's
Some
for sure.
happier news, in spite of me mourning the loss of the black and gold, is, and this isn't actually even sports ball, so we're moving past that, but I know that the audience is at least somewhat invested in this. We're still alive in Survivor.
We are.
Whoa, let's go.
We have to play tonight.
That's because we played the we picked the
We
Monday night
picked
game.
KC, but the important fact here is half of the field was eliminated yesterday. Over half of the field was eliminated yesterday with the loss of Seattle, San Francisco, and there was one other big one, I
Bears
think.
won, though.
Seattle, San Francisco.
Those were the two big ones.
Oh, Pittsburgh.
No, they only lost 6 entries.
No,
though.
it was those two.
It was those two that accounted for. There was, I think, about 200 or 480 entries coming into this weekend, and that was 260 of the entries gone with those two teams.
So
and then you
dope.
had some stragglers. You had like the Bucks lost one. The Steelers, unfortunately,
Steelers
six
lost
people
6.
had that. Patriots had
Patriots
6
had
entries.
6.
Right.
It ended up being around 280 people got whacked out of the 480 left. So we're down to about 200 or is it 200 or 201 coming into tonight.
Yeah, because if we like go through it all.
And how many people have the Chiefs tonight?
So
30 maybe?
16 have the Chiefs.
16, okay.
I literally have the picture. So
Yeah.
160 people took the Seahawks, they're gone. 86 people took the Niners, they're gone. 74 people took the Bears, they won. 33 for the Jags and Broncos, they both won. Packers won 29, Washington won 23, and then Patriots lost, Steelers lost, Falcons won, Vikings won, Dolphins won.
Right. So yeah, we trimmed the field down.
We just got to survive tonight.
Our single entry is worth about $60K, assuming that we're able to survive tonight.
70.
But most importantly, the real victory here is we didn't succumb to Andy Zuzolo.
The people versus Andy Zuzolo.
His mutiny of the group chat. We did not succumb to his stupidity and his guerrilla math of how we had to be on Seattle or he was selling his share. I bought his share.
I bought all of it.
I bought that goddamn share, and I sold it to Uncle Dan.
Yes, you did. So now Dan has his piece.
Right.
And Zeus
he's on the sidelines with his $2,000.
Listen, he made profit. There's nothing wrong with taking profits. But now Dan owns his share, which is worth about $2.5 times more than it was yesterday morning.
Well, assuming we win, yeah.
Yeah.
Dancing on Zeus's grave for the moment, for the time being. We'll celebrate again tomorrow should the Chiefs go on to win tonight.
Come on, Chiefs.
Chiefs and refs, baby. Chiefs and refs.
I was doing some research and it doesn't look like Taylor Swift's going to be there. So
that's facts.
Danielle
that's
did
not
say
good.
that.
Yeah, she's got a tour to worry about, so they're going to have to do it without her.
You know, it's okay. I feel fine about it. All right, let's get into the main talking point today. And man, I don't really know where to begin. I mean, like, I don't, how do I not have my fucking poster up here? So
at this point, I think you can substitute it with something else, right?
Well, the only way
Do you want
to
the
be
poster?
Successful people.
I would like the poster. Yeah.
Successful people are the ones who are willing to break the rules.
That's right. And rules were broken here. Spoken ones and unspoken ones. As some text got leaked from Julia. You guys may know her from previous Hustler Live shows, including Max Payne Monday. I believe she often plays with DGAF these days. By the way, this is so fitting that this is my homage to Nick. I briefly had it up when we were going back and forth, and I found him to be such an insufferable human being. Not saying I'm a good judge of character or anything, but your boy got this one right.
Mm-hmm.
But, I took it down. It was briefly up. He still, to this day, a year, 2 years, 3 years later, has a giant fucking poster of me on his podcast set, which salute to you, sir. All right, so basically what ends up happening, and this is the order of events. I think I'm free to disclose this based off of what's gone public at this point, and some private conversations that I've had. But essentially, Julia, who, again, you guys may or may not know from the DGAF show, from Max Payne Monday, her Twitter handle is Julia in Palmdale. She disclosed that she had like this uncouth exchange with Nick, uncomfortable exchange with Nick, very creepy exchange with Nick.
Inappropriate. I think inappropriate would be the word.
Inappropriate might be a good choice of words here. And I'm not here to yuck yum. It's more so just having some level of discernment. She basically said like she had this weird back and forth with him like a year ago. It made her feel incredibly uncomfortable to the point where, like her being around Nick wasn't great. And she didn't know what to do with it. But this most recent occurrence at Hustler Live made her feel more obligated to come forward and basically put this out in the public. And, the way she explained it to me is like she's not looking necessarily for any retribution for herself, but more so this is to protect others as well as to stand up for what she feels is a great injustice, which was the firing of Lauren the dealer.
Kudos to her. Yeah,
I mean, I don't think people understand, and maybe this is something we can highlight on the onset before we really dig into the details, but and I kind of mentioned this myself in the chat, like when I speak about things that I'm highly opinionated on or that I feel wronged over, and I do so in a very loud and public manner, I don't fear repercussions. I don't fear ramifications. I mean, I've said things on this podcast that have led to death threats in my voicemails.
He's not lying.
I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. And it's
I already apologized for that.
And it's like, I'm not trying to make light of that. Like, those could very much be real.
Yeah,
and
right.
I very much probably should be concerned with that. But it's like, at the end of the day, my reality through which I see the world is not a scary one, right? I don't see the world through a lens of intimidation or fear or anything of that nature, because as a man, I've kind of been brought up in a way to hold your head high, be strong, stand up for yourself. Like, we grew up fighting, like that's just a thing. And it kind of gets ingrained into you culturally, and it really does skew the way that you see the world.
Man, you don't care because my room is the fucking right next to the front door.
I'm not going to come for you, brother. I don't care because Kenny's next door. He's got me.
You don't want to mess with Kenny, bro.
He's got a very good point there.
I'm in a cul-de-sac with people who all own endless amounts of guns.
You'll be
I'm a neighbor from Montana.
He has like that old school fucking gun cabinet. Like
if you
complete old
don't
school.
think
Brother,
that
he's ready to find a reason to use them.
of course, if you don't think that he has like one of those like little hidden sniper nests on his roof, you're wrong.
Yeah, no, for
You're
sure.
dead wrong. He's just looking for a reason.
Listen,
And
our cul-de-sac has over probably like 25, 30 guns.
way over. Way over.
The amount of guns to houses.
If the apocalypse comes, I want to live nowhere else but my home.
You're not wrong.
I'm so protected on the east, the west, and the south of me.
We got a wall. We got a wall going on.
They'd be lucky to nip your ear.
That's right.
My bad for signing this.
Never felt better. But like bringing this all the way back to maybe what prompted this and like how courageous Julia actually is. That's not the reality for most women, especially in a male-dominated space, right? Like you kind of have to live the world with some apprehension. For better or for worse, there are just a lot of instances where because physically you're just outmatched by a larger, taller, bigger, stronger, faster man, you have to kind of change the way through which you navigate the world. And that's incredibly unfortunate. I wouldn't even begin to try to put myself in her shoes and understand what it feels like to not be able to speak my mind because of the fear of physical violence or intimidation tactics. And that's precisely what happened. If anybody's been following this story, the very first update that Julia posted was that I guess this was Friday evening, maybe Saturday evening. She said, "This evening, Nick has been trying to get the address of where I play home games and dig up dirt on me, saying his actions are my fault because of how I dress. At Hustler Casino, is this the showrunner you want to be associated with?" And that's probably mild compared to the lengths at which somebody like this may go. I don't want to draw any conclusions, but we've already seen things like this occur right in our own backyard with Melissa, where she had a very deranged individual seem to manifest this like relationship in his head with her, and it led to this wild, unhinged behavior. And like, who knows how threatening that can become?
Right.
And these aren't one of ones.
No, and the crazy part is like, we know about these because these are people that were able to speak about their situation.
Exactly.
There's a lot of situations where people are maybe not in the right situation, or like just maybe there's a power struggle or something along those lines where they just can't say anything.
Right.
Or they're just scared of the repercussions that happen. So
course.
like, these are two people that are in good situations for themselves that are able to speak out. I wonder how many more whatever.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, right? Because there's many different ways that there can be some sort of power dynamic. It can be a work relationship or a work scenario where somebody is your boss. It can be a scenario like this one where perhaps Nick holds the key to Julia playing in these games or not. Yeah. And how much of her livelihood is predicated on playing these games is unknown.
I mean, when it comes to that, she's a lawyer, so like, good for her that she doesn't. It's not. That's one of the reasons why
reliant on it.
Exactly. That's one of the reasons why she's able to talk. I'm saying basically.
Yeah, possibly.
She's comfortable in her life. Probably.
Yeah, probably so.
So it seems.
But even still, like it's this weird line crossing where you have to like, one thing the older I become more and more aware of is that equality does not necessarily mean same, right? So So offering the same mutual respect to a woman that you would a man or something along those lines isn't necessarily articulated or projected in the same way. I could, like, if Nick were having this conversation with a guy that he was friends with, it would immediately be taken as a joke. And largely that's not even necessarily because he's perceived to be straight, but more so because it's less intimidating. There's no physical power dynamic. There's no
potential implication.
Yeah. There's no leverage really, right? But whenever it comes to a woman now, it's like, even if you meant this in jest, which these text messages don't read that way, even if you meant it that way, it's like incredibly off-putting. It puts people on their heels. It makes them now reevaluate the entire dynamic through which your relationship has gotten to this point. And that is not a feeling as a man that you should ever want to project onto another human being, right? Like, at least coming from my own personal experience, like, I don't ever want to have some sort of like weird stigma attached where somebody is pandering to me because they're intimidated in some sort of capacity.
It's kind of like a sense of like just like size between you and another human being. Like, there's almost a thing where you don't, like, if you are just like big, just a male to female, you don't want to like make anybody ever feel uncomfortable.
Right.
So like, if like whatever, people are intimidated by some people, whatever, and like just doing things like this, just, I don't know, it puts people in a really bad situation.
Yeah, I think it's really shitty, obviously, and then to push back and say like, well, you asked for it. Like, that's sort of retort.
It's unbelievable.
That is
amazing. Right. This is what happens. Like, you see this time and time again, right? It's somehow these people try to twist it around and victim blame. Like, they try to make the victim like the problem, right? Like, oh, you dressed a certain way or you did this, so it's your fault, right? And that you see that time and time again. It's a very common thing in these situations.
I mean, I think that's also like a tactic, kind of,
right?
To like just push it back on her,
right,
like, hey, listen, like, or more of like a fear tactic of like not going out, maybe, like, or just trying to like get her to reverse her steps, depending on what the timeline is.
Yeah, I think the issue is when it comes to the communication along those lines, saying something like that makes the other person think that they were in the wrong for thinking they overstepped in the first place.
Right.
Like,
which can prevent other people from coming out and saying things and having the courage to report these things that are happening.
Or it's like, how could you think I was thinking along these lines? Like, I'm married, like I have a family.
Right.
It's like, this is on you for thinking that that's what I meant, but the words actually say otherwise. And once you get the response you don't want, you backtrack.
Right. And like, it's just gaslighting, right?
Yeah.
Like, along that effect, it's just basically saying like, well, what did you expect from me? I'm a man. And we kind of talked about this in pre-production. There's a group of people that like read this and say, it's not that bad. That's just flirting. That's a male-female interaction. Like, why are you guys coming down? It's like,
that could be said any Thursday.
Right. Well, it's like, look, first of all, it's inappropriate because of the clear dynamic that he sets lineups and she's subject to
a pure power dynamic going on.
It's very clear that that's a thing, right? And she has to be cognizant of that anytime that she's having some sort of interaction with him.
And you can kind of see it in her response then, right? She's like, it's all good, no problem. Like,
right.
And you kind of like, she probably like felt like you kind of have to say something like that. I don't want to speak for her, like what she was thinking in that exact moment, but
that's kind of a tactic, right? Make yourself small, and non-threatening,
right.
And the threat goes away, right. So it's like whenever you look at it through that lens, and those guys who will try to jump to the defense and say like, oh well, like look, she downplayed the response, and this can't be that big of a deal. Like, why are you guys making a mountain out of a molehill kind of thing? It's like, we maybe I'm speaking a little bit too loosely here, but like, as adult men, we've dated, we've courted women, we've flirted with women, we've done all these things. To ask a girl to see her tits and say you're gonna go jerk off to it, you got to be more confident that she's into that than Conrad was that Seattle was gonna win.
97 points.
Listen, the 2.2 comes through.
Like Like
but hold on. But in football, you can
not
use those
97%.
Yeah, you can't use these
not
estimates in these texts.
98%, not 99%. You have to be
100,
200% certain,
Right.
that the response to that sort of inquiry,
Right.
is
nothing but a pitcher.
And there's a power dynamic going on, and it's and she's a married woman.
she's
right?
not married.
Oh, she's not married.
He's married.
Oh, he's
she
a married man, right?
But he did lead with, "Are you still do you still have a boyfriend?" And
Right.
she said yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's like the end
Sorry,
of it.
she wasn't married. She was involved with somebody else.
So
right.
it's like that right there, in and of itself, is the end of it. But the whole point that I'm trying to get at is like there's going to be a debate here of like, well, then what is acceptable and what's not acceptable? And it's like, use your fucking head. I'm not trying to even defend that there's a world in which you should be able to ask a girl for nudes and say that you're going to go wank it. But what I am trying to say is that anybody who is at all able to read into tone or any sort of if a girl is flirtatious with you or not, right? And like when you give them the opportunity to say like, are you single? And they say absolutely not.
that should be ended.
That's
right there.
already a hard line.
Right.
It's like the line has already been drawn in the sand. You're choosing to step over it. And at that point, not only are you choosing to step over it, but like you're doing it in the laziest, most sophomoric way possible of like, oh, sorry. You just get me all steamed up with the boobs and orange emoji. It's like, what the fuck? First of all, man, like...
I think we're just out of touch now. Like, I didn't know that the oranges were...
They're not. It's cherries. Everybody knows this.
Oh, okay.
Like, come on. Google it, man. It's like, get a Zoomer to help you out. Like, use ChatGPT. Did he ChatGPT this, you think?
No.
No, he didn't run this through any filters.
I'm pretty sure if you ask ChatGPT, it'd probably say, "Oh, it sounds like she has a boyfriend. You shouldn't engage."
Yeah, ChatGPT would be like, just go your side.
Yes, of course.
He did not go his side with Kitty. That's for sure.
He did not go his side. Right. So that leads us into.
Good segue, Brian, by accident.
This leads us into what ultimately became the story that we're dealing with right now, and that is that there's a lot more follow. No shock. But this is not a one-off scenario, right?
It never is.
And of course it never is. And I think the shoe's going to continue to drop. So Kitty confirmed that when they played live at the bike together, he just whipped his phone out and showed her his dick. And it's just like, I can't fathom what world this would ever be accepted in. She said, I played live at the bike many, many times. And this guy is totally right. When Nick showed me his dick pics at the poker table on the live stream, I was very strong and I said, "You have a pencil dick."
Also not surprising.
Right, not surprising. And he was mad. I don't give a shit if I can't play Hustler, but it did happen to me. And these are important accounts to take into consideration because, look, at the end of the day, like, Kitty's a tough, strong woman, and she didn't deem it necessary to go public with something like this. And that's up to her. Everybody gets to deal with this as they see fit.
Right. I don't think there's a right answer to how to approach.
Right.
No, but look at people that have come forward so far.
Right.
It's only two people that are very strong, probably.
Well, that's the thing.
Actually, I think, and not to interject, I don't know if strong is the right word. It's just people that maybe financially don't necessarily
aren't
need
tied
to be
him.
on HCL.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the
one. It's
situation would
both.
be a lot different if, like, let's say, and again, I don't want to speculate as to who's a regular on HCL, but if your sole income or a majority of your income is coming from this HCL game, pretty fucking hard to be like, hey man, like you're making me uncomfortable,
right,
or to go to HR or do anything.
So imagine how strong Lauren had to be to effectively go to HR, complain about Nick, and get told to kick rocks.
Agreed.
Right. So
and then you see this, and then it just prevents other women from coming forward.
Of course. And it's like, and that's what Kitty also should be celebrated for. It's like maybe she didn't feel the need to come forward herself, but the second she could lend support, she immediately told the story.
It wasn't for her.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. She was just lending support. The craziest
like,
part about this, the craziest part about the Lauren thing to me is when HCL's, whatever you want to call them, HR department, turned her down basically, or whatever, kicked her out.
Well, we're speculating. I don't know.
Or she left, whatever the case may be.
Let's just clue the audience in on exactly what happened.
Well, we don't know exactly. That's the point. I don't know where he's going with this, but the whole point is that, like, allegedly she had a complaint about Nick and expressed that to some higher up.
Right.
I assume it was an HR department. I have no idea, but inevitably she was let go.
Right.
Right. So these are the only things that we know for sure. Lauren was let go, and people close to the source say that she had been offering up complaints about Nick and his out of line behavior.
Wonder where I was going with this. I was wondering if she basically went to Feldman or any of the players about it, as opposed to HR.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter.
We don't know.
I don't think it makes any difference
I
at
mean,
all.
if they go to one of the players about it, I think players have more.
Well, Julia has since gone to Hustler HR. So she put a tweet out today that says, "Bring Lauren back after communications on 10/6/24. I have good reason to believe that the management and ownership of Hustler Casino support, care about, and want to do the right thing by their employees and patrons. But it can't happen if people stay silent. Hustler employees and patrons, HCL dealers, players, commentators, podcast co-host, co-owner Ryan Feldman. There is safety in numbers. You can speak to HR anonymously, and your job will be protected under whistleblower status. Even if fear of retaliation or of losing your job caused you to tell HR already that you don't know anything, you can retract that. Tell them what you witnessed and experienced. Call this number. Talk to Karen in HR." So it does sound like there was a conversation between Hustler Casino HR and the employees at large.
Man, but that Caleb Williams, he's really something out there for the Bears.
I mean, weird way to break the silence. Hilarious that he turned comments off on that too.
So basically, I'm referring to Vertucci put out a tweet that basically said Caleb Williams is great in the middle of all this.
Right.
It's quite amazing.
Bad timing.
Right. So now more and more stories are starting to come out. I know Ash Kardash went live on Spaces last night. I didn't catch the whole thing, but I think the long and short of it was she said that Nick offered her a sugar baby, sugar daddy relationship, and she turned it down. Later, then she said he made advances on her, which again she shot down, and then they haven't spoken or seen each other since. Again, I imagine that there's just like a long list of people that we're still not hearing from. We still haven't really heard Lauren's story from the source or anything along those lines. It's just, this is very similar to like when the Me Too thing happened. Once the shoe drops, a lot of other people that have been staying silent.
And this is why
fear.
the Me Too movement is necessary, because like there's power in numbers, right? It's like if one person
Right, it goes both ways.
Right.
There's the secrecy is often born out of a small club of people.
Right. But once one person comes out and another person comes out, and then you feel empowered to come out yourself, and you're protected by, everyone else, because, if it's just one person, it's just he said, she said, right? It's you versus them. But now there's 20 people that are saying the exact same thing. Who are you going to believe? Right?
And the thing of it is that, you can look back on the last few years when we were kind of shining a light on something doesn't pass the sniff test over here, right? And we've seen a lot of, movement throughout the community throughout all this time. I was very close friends with Veronica. I was very close friends with Christian. Both of them all but burned that bridge with me in order to align themselves with Hustler Casino Live, specifically in defense of Vertucci. And, he really propagated this notion of the Hustler family. You're a part of the family. Like, you're one of us. We protect each other. We're loyal. We look out for one another. Shen hasn't been seen on Hustler in months.
Nope.
Put out a cryptic tweet saying that it's a permanent ban. Don't know what that means. DGAF, another one. I've known this guy since 2008. Never said a cross word about him. Love Billy. I think he's the fucking best. He's literally a guy that I modeled my game off of in the early portion of my career. He's a guy that I have tremendous respect for being in the game this long. A guy that I would have loved to help support his content creation and his passion now as he's becoming more of a creator and things like that. He won't speak to me. He's just like completely burned that bridge, all because we called out the security of HCL during Jack 4, right?
Yeah.
So this larger and larger and larger collection of people that kept aligning themselves with Vertucci, who's the godfather of this so-called family, now are all on the outs.
Yeah, it's weird when it's also like, you just like, you don't really know him, Matt. Like, he's like a good guy, yada, yada, whatever. And then stuff like this happens, and it's like, okay, well, if you know him better and you stayed there, something doesn't add up in my mind.
Well, not even just that. They're all gone. They're all gone. Everybody that threw all of their weight in support for Nick got pushed out, either by Nick himself or by waking up one day and feeling the need to like stand on business and say like, this guy actually is fucked.
Yeah.
You know? And look, you know, the bigger conversation I want to have here, and I think it'll carry us into the Barber convo, is like, you guys, and I'm not putting the blame anywhere, but we got what we deserved with this.
For real.
We platformed this motherfucker for years.
Yeah.
All of those people stroking him off in spaces every single night when he's on his sleep chocolate, rambling on and on, bordering on, you know, just alienating everybody under the sun, saying the dumbest shit imaginable, and everybody in the audience just like rallying behind, like, yeah, he's my everyman. It's like, you know, maybe he actually is just an 80 IQ scammer. Did you ever think of that? It could just be possible.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we didn't get this one so wrong. And sadly, like, this is what happens when you throw your support in droves to the people that don't deserve it. You get a corrupt stream, you get a corrupt owner who's now leveraging his power and position to alienate young, attractive women, which there's no shortage of when it comes to the Hustler live streams. They basically built a brand around that for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Max Payne Monday was like all but being repackaged as a hot girl, like a young hot girl opportunity.
Well, the idea of it was like the poker's first reality TV show.
Yeah, but the execution of it was, let's get a bunch of girls in their 20s to come here and do outlandish shit for the camera.
Right.
Right? And like the bar just continually kept getting raised. So it's like, it's exploitative. And to some degree, it's easy now to come with the pitchforks and say, this guy doesn't deserve fucking anything from us. He doesn't deserve our attention. He doesn't deserve our support. But that's so quickly overlooking what's taken place for the last 3 years. You know, the amount of people who so heavily turn their attention to finding a reason for why this guy can't be as bad as he's being portrayed and boosting him up, you know?
And what was the purpose for that? Why did people do? Why do you think people? Is it because of the opportunity to be on Hustler, to play in these games?
I think top down. It started with selfish motives.
Okay,
right? So at the top, the higher level people like Christian
I
left
can
for
align myself with this guy, and I can get into these really, really good games and make a whole bunch of money.
Christian aligned himself with Vertucci for very selfish reasons.
Right.
Veronica, same thing. Right. These were relevancy reasons. These were access reasons. These were, you know, maybe monetary reasons, whatever. Right. As it trickles down, you just want to be in the circle. Right. You just want the cascading effects of being around something that is trending up.
Part of the family.
Correct. Right. And you get indoctrinated. And it turns into this now large us versus them mentality. And that was exactly what was getting spun. DGAF, I think, is like the most clear example because they absolutely have no working relationship now. They're, you know, I don't know the finer details of what went on behind the scenes, but I know for a fact that those guys are for sure very much on the outs.
And there's definitely, it's interesting in the sense of what Hustler has done for poker, in the sense of stream viewership and games that have happened. There's been a lot of good things that have come from the product that is Hustler. And when you see that stuff and you're someone that wants to play on games or try to platform yourself, it would make sense. And I don't think anyone's like a bad person to try to play on Hustler and get some get action. But it is that weird in between when you do know what's going on if you're still kind of around.
It's at what cost?
Right.
Right? Like at what cost? The demand to being loyal to only their stream. Like, I don't know how true it is, but there's rumors that like Sashimi's not allowed to play other streams if she wants to play Hustler. Like that type of leveraging. I mean, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, where it's like inappropriate sexual passes and things like that. But leveraging even that seat, like, and don't get me wrong, this happens in the private realm too. Yeah. But much like this, there are people in that realm that are more powerful than a single game. And they'll say, fuck you, you need me more than I need you. I'm going to play whatever games I want, and you're still probably going to give me a seat, right?
And other people are not in that same place.
Exactly. And then the people who are lower on the chain are trying to move up the chain, so they're just like, oh, yes, whatever you say, sir. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of bootlicking and ass kissing, and there's no way getting around that. I'm not even judging anybody who falls into that camp because, like you said, like you got to eat. You know, you got to do what you got to do to eat. It becomes more of an issue whenever you're willing to overlook all the bad stuff. When you're willing to just be loyal to a fault and just blindly rage against the machine that is holding your dude accountable to shit that he's clearly done. Like the fact that the fact that he previously existed as a quote unquote real estate scammer, and we just kind of like, yeah, we bring it up and throw it in his face every now and again when the timing is right, but like it's not really that much of a smudge for him to exist in this space. It wasn't much of a friction point where people were like, you know what? I'm not so sure that we need to be doing business with this guy.
Right.
You know, if I'm WPT, maybe I think to myself, I don't necessarily want to just throw a 6 or 7 figure sponsorship deal at a guy who maybe made all of his money by rugging a bunch of people in a sort of like pyramid scheme, right? Maybe I would take some considerations. Maybe I would take some considerations of whether or not I want to throw my weight behind something that largely has its velocity due to the fact that cheaters have been involved, a massive scam. I mean, how many people have gone through that stream that weren't properly vetted that turned out to be scammers?
Right.
Ryusuke, Mars, what was the most recent one that just happened? There was one a few weeks ago, right? I can't remember. There's so many.
Yeah,
There's literally
this
so
point
many. I mean, it seems like Airball himself is calling somebody out like, you know, weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And look, that's high stakes poker. That's private poker. That happens. You can't hold them too much at fault for that. But like, there's no due diligence whatsoever. And then we're just supposed to believe that the Jack 4 thing was on the up and up, and there's no way anything could have been nefariously taking place there.
As soon as you
nothing took place there.
Shut up. Go ahead.
and like as soon as you question it or try to dig and want some clarity or some answers, they draw a hard line in the sand saying, no, they're against us, and you're either with us or you're with them, because we just want some answers. We just want to get to the bottom of what possibly could have happened and try to make the stream better.
Yeah.
Make poker better, make it more secure.
It somehow turned into like your statement of compromisation, jealousy versus just objective fact. It's like you're saying this because you don't like us. It's like, I just think that there might be something wrong with the stream, man.
Right. That's the craziest part of all. And
there's nothing to do
you
with
kind of saw this play out with Doug, where it's like, ultimately, I was actually trying to offer support. I mean, granted, it was a very harshly toned message, but it was in the vein of like, look, man, like if you do these things, I think we'll all rally behind you and you'll likely build off of it, right? And it just turned into a battle cry, right? We just went to war. Doug took a much softer approach and was like, look, I'm going to support you within the framework of support. And, you know, he kind of went there, examined everything, told his truth, which a lot of it pointed to, hey, man, something fucked up may have happened, but he never actually said the words, right? And then it led to some back and forth favors. They sent some players to him. He showed up to the $1 Million game a few times. And then what ultimately ends up happening? Massive fallout after the $1 Million game. Mm-hmm. Now they're at fucking war again, right? And they just hate each other. Because that's what's always going to happen with somebody who's a simpleton that thinks that the world should bend and kiss the ring.
And not to like stray too far of what what came to light in the last couple of days, but this is all connected, right? It's all when you have a person like this with the power dynamic and everything that you see that he's done with the stream, it obviously now it leads into all this misconduct with women.
Right. And honestly, it might all just stem back to those goddamn T levels. You know, maybe the guy just can't make a good fucking decision. I showed it to Michelle. She's
like, how the hell does he know what his T levels are?
So he made you take a test, and they were 300.
I mean, like there's just so many cringe memes that come off of this, because the little bit of the interaction that we actually did get to see with Julia was obviously bad, but it wasn't like it could have been worse, I guess. Yeah. The cringe actually like really rose to the top there. Mm-hmm. And man, that coupled with Kitty telling him he had a pencil dick It's just like the internet's gonna do what it's gonna do, and I have
He's
to tell you,
obviously an insecure little man.
of course. I mean, like, just the picture that Jaffe put up.
It's so good.
I think that was right.
That pencil is fucking big, bro.
Yeah.
The picture Jaffe put up was absolutely so spot on. He's just like, I for one am shocked that this guy's sending inappropriate texts to women, and it's just Nick doing his like photo shoot in front of the Hustler sign, like, man,
with
I'm
his
so
arms
big.
crossed,
Yeah.
and
it's like, brother, this isn't it, you know?
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much further this is going to cascade. I hope that the momentum continues to carry forward. I hope that there's a lot of upward pressure
yes,
towards Hustler to doing right by Lauren. And perhaps we haven't heard from her because maybe she's seeking litigation. I don't know.
I don't know.
But I do hope that if no one else is righted in this situation, she at least is made whole. You know, for those who don't kind of understand and follow the whole Lauren trajectory, it's like, I only know her a little bit. I played her twice, so I got to meet her twice. Absolutely one of the best dealers I've come across. She's an absolute sweetheart, kind to the players. You know, when I was there, it was the first really big game that they played, and you could see that there was a little bit of nerves there, but she handled herself incredibly well. When she dealt the content creators game with Mr. Beast, he tipped her $10,000, and instead of just pocketing that, she went up and she basically tipped out the rest of the staff. Didn't have to do that.
Right. No.
You know, it's not necessarily a spoken rule or even an unspoken one. It was incredibly generous, and I think that speaks to her character and like the type of person that she is. You guys may not remember, but like she was under fucking fire during the HCL scandal because we try to make whole of like what the hell is going on here, and you look at all the possible points of that could be breached, right? And it's like, well, what about the deck? What about the shuffle machine? What about the dealer? You know? And there was a point where the internet ran wild with I can't remember if it was like her sleeve or something looked off, or it was something that ended up being literally nothing, but it was a conspiracy for like a week. And imagine like you're just working an hourly job at a casino doing a simple task that you've done a million times before on camera, and now all of a sudden you're being wrongly accused of like what's happening here. Now, of course, to their credit, Ryan and Nick came out and they supported her and they said, you know, enough's enough. Like it wasn't her, but she doesn't have to deal with that shit.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a question for you.
Good.
If she was going to search the litigation path, would she have to pay out of pocket for something like this?
I only know based off of like the little bit that I've had to do research on for like defamation shit, which the answer is yes. But defamation's a weird one though, because like basically what happens is you sue each other and the winner just pays the legal cost of the other. Okay. So it just ends up being like a negative free roll for all parties. Yeah. In this particular instance,
I think because it's a wrongful termination, I think the person who's prosecuting, or excuse me, the lawyer that would be defending her, I guess there could be some like monetary value in that. Because I know Nevada's a right to work state, and I believe in California you can sue if you feel like you were fired under wrong pretext. So
I would imagine it basically is. It usually is like if we win, then you owe X.
Yeah, that's what I would. Well, my reason for asking was, I would like Lauren to come up forward if she would need money for litigation for this.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like.
Yeah, I mean, she'll get support. Like one way or another, I think she'll get support.
Absolutely.
My best guess is that lawyers in that vein, like generally I think when you're dealing with lawsuits, lawyers work for a piece.
Hospital chasers? Ambulance chasers?
Yeah.
Hospital chasers.
Yeah, I think they usually work for a piece, but like in defamation, there's like no piece to get. Yeah. So it's just like very rarely that you get a settlement where you get what you're suing for. So oftentimes they'll just want a retainer. Okay. That's just on. I don't know very much when it comes to this type of shit, but
yeah, I would love to know.
But yeah, I mean, I think I let off the show with I don't want to talk about this, and I really didn't because I think it's such a disgusting like avenue that exist in our space, and it exists in all spaces. And I don't think that me, you, or anyone else in this room is necessarily going to be the thing that changes it. But I certainly am not going to ignore an obvious problem.
And
Right.
sorry, I think the reason that we have to talk about it, like the big reason we have to talk about it, is because there's so many males. We play in a male-dominated field. Like
Right.
it's all males. Like if there's 1% women, I feel like this happens often.
Yeah.
So like shedding light on this and just like telling women that they can come forward to somebody and like whatever, people will help and whatever. It's nice to.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not the first. He's not going to be the last.
No,
There's probably
exactly.
many situations like this that are happening, and the more you can shed light on it and give people the courage to come forward, that hopefully that you can mitigate it.
If you're Matt, if you're Nick in this spot, just hypothetically, how would you go about trying to make the best of / resolve it?
I don't know.
You probably just start by going to the gym.
I moved to Thailand. Honestly, I just don't know, because this is so unhinged to me. Like, I wish I could explain how cautiously I navigate these waters in my own personal life.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to any...
So when you send dick pics, you're like super sure they want them.
I mean, we're talking like a 10-to-1 ratio of them sending first. It's like a crypto exchange. It's like, okay, you send first.
Yep.
I need a paper trail of this one.
My reputation is my
Don't
vouch.
trust, verify.
Right, exactly. Not your keys, not your cock.
Jesus.
No, but like personally, like I feel such pressure to always check, double check, triple check, quadruple check that no lines or boundaries are being crossed. Not just because I have a bit of a public reputation, because at the end of the day, like, I'm nobody. I'm a Z-list poker player, which is better, I guess, than being... Actually, it might be worse than being completely unknown. But the point is that, like...
You got to be anonymous and known as a poker player.
Right. But my point isn't necessarily the public scrutiny, because I don't think anonymity should suddenly just give you a pass to be an unhinged human being.
Which
right?
most people do on the internet, especially with Instagram and DMs and all of these things.
Right.
Like, you can be a creep in the DMs without people knowing.
Right. And I guess, like, from my own personal perspective, it's just that I'm very conscientious of, like, the type of person I want to be, the type of person that would be representative of who I am. And I'm just always going to be, like, over the top cautious anytime that it comes to any sort of, flirty banter. I mean, like, look, man, there's a digital footprint for just about everything.
Yeah. And
right?
you don't want to put the women in these awkward spots as well. Like, that's the main thing. It's like you don't want to... There could be a situation where there's a power dynamic. And
I'm just very much of the mind, and maybe this is just, like, the way that I was raised, but as far as, like, male-female dynamics go, relationships and things of that nature, I am very much of the personal belief that women set the boundaries and we test them.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether that's platonically, romantically, sexually, or anything in between, they are to make the boundaries clear. And even if they're not clear, then we just have to assume, like, if they're blurry, then as a man, you have to assume the extreme version of that blurriness.
You assume, like, no.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Like, if
start with no and go from there.
Right. Like, if it seems like very unsure that, like, oh, maybe she's flirting, maybe she's not flirting, start with she's not. Right? Like, don't start with the optimistic she is.
You don't dive headfirst in with the orange emoji.
Yeah, that's right. You gotta ease into the orange emojis. Those are definitely not ones that you can just fire off at will. But, like, honestly, like, I just don't think that there's a world where I don't even think, like, if I were married for 20 years, I would send the text that he sent Julia. It's just like, it's so goddamn cringe, man. It's so cringe.
I think the other side of this coin is Ryan Feldman. He's a co-owner of the stream.
Yeah.
Right. So I think he needs to say something. He needs to say something soon.
He will, but I think it's just gonna be a PR statement. And again, this is very much what I'm coming from, or what I guess I was saying with regard to, as the community, we got what we deserved here. I think the same with him. He's in bed with a partner that he handpicked. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that they belong together. I've come to have an opinion of Feldman that is not very high. I think that he's very corrupt or corruptible from top to bottom as well. And though it may not be ill-advised sexual advances, I'm sure that there are plenty other morally corrupt things that are taking place that, I would not want to be a part of a business in that situation. So at the end of the day, it's like they're going to sink on this ship together, and I hope that that's ultimately the outcome. But I also know that this stuff tends to go away.
I don't think that you can feign ignorance here as Ryan either.
No.
No,
I don't think you can feign ignorance as Veronica.
That's true.
Like, there's just no way that when you're in the
years.
not only that, but like the early onslaught of you getting to know Nick, there's no way that you didn't tolerate the same behavior,
Right.
to some degree, you know. And
But
it's just
you
like
cost benefited, like how this is going to help your career,
right?
versus
Or you just like give the benefit of the doubt over and over and over and over again, right?
how many times can you say that until we are where we are?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of it.
Like these things when it comes to business, I'm sure like are very important, like who you align with and like what they represent. And saying I didn't know any of these situations makes it seem extremely ignorant on your part, and doesn't look good, cuz.
Does not look good.
I mean, Ryan has to know Nick better than almost anybody in the world.
You would think,
right?
yeah.
So it's just like outside his family, right? So like,
right, like if you drew an equivalency where, like, let's say that Nick is believed to be like a creep sexually or whatever. If you drew the equivalency that like Ryan was siphoning hundreds of thousands of dollars from the business, you know,
Nick would probably know that.
right? Like, there's no way Nick could just like feign ignorance,
Right, yeah.
Be like, oh my god, I could have never seen that coming. It's like, buddy, you have access to the books. Like, of course you could.
To a degree, I guess, parallel, different example, like with the Mr. Beast stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's very similar in the sense of as soon as stuff was found out about the Ava Tyson stuff, Jimmy just completely disowned as part of the friend group.
And made a statement, right?
And made a statement, but at the same time, saying that he didn't know anything that was going on is probably naive as well.
Right.
Because he's known him as a really good friend for many, many years.
Right.
And now that there's a problem, you're going to say something.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
Yeah, of course, because now it's disingenuous.
Right.
Your hand is just
anyone
forced.
that knows this is going to know you're going to say exactly what you are.
You know what it is, Landon?
It's not good.
It's bad faith.
It's
And
bad
since we're
faith.
talking about bad faith, let's move on from the Vertucci Chronicles. And let's get one of my favorite people in the world to talk to from one of my favorite cities in the world, Pittsburgh, PA.
Mm-hmm.
Recently became a fellow Yinzer
Let's go.
via marriage, and is one of the more down-to-earth, grounded individuals that I personally need in my life to tell me to get the fuck off of Twitter time to time. Andrew Barber, ladies and gentlemen.
Andrew, turn your camera on, buddy.
Andrew?
Hello. There he is.
Oh, there he is.
I'm so sorry that I heard you moved to Pittsburgh. So sorry for you, man.
Pittsburgh is lovely. People sleep on this city way too much.
That's
Oh,
right.
man.
See?
Gospel.
That is true.
Tell these people. All right, let's dip your toes in the water here really quickly before we get to the bigger talking points. Have you been following this Vertucci stuff at all?
I mean, you were correct that I would tell you to get off social media a little bit more. I have, after 17 years as a professional poker player, I have transitioned into the working stiff life. And so I can't speak to poker matters as much. I gleaned a little bit from listening to you guys and skimming a little bit last night. I think that I echo a couple of your opinions. One, that like we got what we deserved. I mean, I think that when poker is filled with scumbags, like it's a demand problem. It's not a supply problem. Like we seem to not abhor these individuals as much as we should. I know that like I'm so upset with myself when I get scammed. I mean, it hasn't happened often, but like the times where it has, I'm like, God, how could I make how could I be such a terrible judge of character? And I'm surprised that more people don't want to abide by that kind of same rule of like being extremely diligent in their assessment of people's character.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the assessment of people's character because that kind of transitions me into this tweet that you put out a week or so ago. And we talked a bit about it, I think, privately, very quickly. But you tweeted, as a poker player, I'm incredibly disappointed that so many in the community are so easily deceived by misinformation. I used to believe that the sharps that occupy this profession would be able to discern truth from likely fiction, but that assumption doesn't seem to hold. You want to elaborate a little bit on that statement?
Yeah, it's been like somewhat influenced by a few people in the community lately. I like really went back and forth on whether or not I wanted to name names, because I don't know if I want to call out specific individuals. But maybe if I, you know, if I don't, then it's going to be too abstract. But like, I love Daniel Negreanu. I think he is we're lucky to have him in the community. I see him get duped from time to time, and I think people of similar intelligence or poker ability are seemingly also get duped. I know for me, like, this came up during COVID a lot. That was probably like my first exposure, certainly the one that I saw the most of. And it surprised me, and I couldn't make sense of it. And I'm still trying to make sense of it, of why this group of, and now I'm going to say supposed sharps, because I don't know if you can be considered sharp if you have these like massive blind spots. But people who are fully capable of discerning truth from fiction, or being able to make a read of a situation, or having some kind of framework by which you evaluate the veracity of a claim, they're turning that off. And I'm wondering why it is that poker players who have this skill set like that makes them invaluable in any kind of quantitative profession, and should make them the absolute best at doing this, some of the worst from time to time.
Yeah, I could venture my own guess, and maybe you can tell me your thoughts on it. But from my perspective, I think that poker in and of itself filters for intellect, very specifically for more of the linear analytical thinker, a problem solver, but one where A leads to B kind of thing. Even if A leads to Z in a very roundabout way, it's going to progress towards some sort of solution. And within the confines of the game, or the constructs of the game, I guess, there are a lot of these micro battles that take place. And they take place in two sort of capacities. One, where you stress test ideas amongst your peer group, or your non-peer group, if you are a much larger platform, maybe like Daniel. And you do your best to filter out the noise and try to arrive at some sort of conclusions. But ultimately, disagreements will occur, and you'll just go your separate ways in order to then actually test things on the felt. And poker, being a largely negative feedback game, will put doubt into your certainty, which is a good thing, in my opinion, for a critical thinker. It's an incredibly good thing, because it makes you continually revisit the idea, an iron sharpens iron kind of thing, where you iterate back and forth off of each other. When you talk about the rest of the world problems, specifically through social media, through the social media lens, it's more noise than signal, and not even close, maybe like 1,000,000 to 1. If we're talking about like the dilution effect, where, you know, whenever you're able to curate a very small group of peers within an already curated group of poker players, signal to noise ratio might be like closer to 1 to 1. So I think that perhaps the issue is not that the community is full of squares that don't really understand how to discern truth from fiction, but more so that the framework through which their mind works, their ability to solve problems, has not been tested outside of the realm of poker, and it's just no longer curated towards bigger picture problems, right? Because I hold your opinion. I think it's like almost laughable how some of the people that I hold in the highest regard in the poker sphere present themselves in public when it comes to anything that requires any level of critical thinking and or empathy attached to that thinking.
Yeah, no, I think that you hit upon something right at the end there. I think that, first of all, I agree with you at the beginning when you're referring to the skepticism. And I think that there is a testing of ideas And something that, I mean, an idea I've come back to time and time again, and I get a lot of pushback for this, is one way that you can like kind of stress test your frameworks or your models of reality is to just bet on shit. And it doesn't really matter what the amount is. Like that's usually the first pushback is like, oh, you know, you puff up your chest and you want to bet a big number and that, you know, scares everybody off. I don't care what the amount is. I just think if you have some sort of accounting where you're betting $1 with friends, you know, some small sum on predictions that you have, and you start to get a sense of like, is someone collecting dollars more often or is someone handing out dollars more often? I think even that simple exercise could give you the sense that, okay, I need to check myself. I should not have the level of confidence that I have because I'm getting this wrong a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's one element of this. You know, I worry that I think poker like selects for contrarians. I think it selects for people that have, they're hunting for like secret knowledge. And the thing is, in the world of like politics and current events and similar things, like there isn't secret knowledge, or there's so rarely secret knowledge.
Yeah.
Like the conventional wisdom is going to get you the correct answer 99% of the time. But they're hunting for that 1%. And I almost wonder if it's, you know, in the same way that you try to find the undervalued shit coins so you can have a massive ROI, maybe you try to find the bit of information that nobody believes that has this sliver of, you know, this tiny possibility of being true. And if you find that, like, that's winning. That's winning in this game of information.
But there's also just like absolutely no downside to being wrong for the most part, right? Like, I mean,
as it currently stands.
Yeah. Like using DNEGs as an example, he's been wildly, outlandishly wrong about a lot of things. And not only will he attempt to spin those incorrect stances as partially correct or correct through a different lens, the admission of inaccuracies is just like not there. So, you know, we all like to view ourselves as credible sources and believing that we mostly spread truths. But I think to your point, when you're just speculating, like I do this a lot on the show, I speculate a lot. And it's because personally, like it's the way that I learn, like through real world examples. I kind of mentioned the way that I learn poker on the onset is like, you know, just posing a bunch of questions to people that I consider peers. The real world kind of works the same way for me as well. Like I'm not sharp on politics, so I'll just pose things as what ifs, and knowing that you are sharp on politics, you'll tell me why I'm wrong, and I'll just accept that. When that starts to happen in a crowdsourcing kind of way, where the question isn't really being posed as an inquiry so much as a statement of truth that you're just crowdsourcing to see who pushes back and how hard, I think that's where it becomes like a really slippery slope and very dangerous, because now this misinformation gets shared by some collective and pushed back on by other collectives, and then the pushing back group often loses sight of the point that they were trying to refute to begin with because of the bad faith discussion that takes place, where you get railroaded into a conversation that has little or nothing to do with the original statement, as it were, because the only interest is winning the argument. It's not actually finding truths.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that's probably the most important thing to stress here is that you have to divorce yourself of your ego, and you have to divorce yourself of this idea that winning matters. If you can get away from those things, then you actually have a chance, because then it becomes, okay, now the priority is not winning. The priority is truth seeking. Okay, well, how will I do that? I have to start with some good sources. I have to start with friends that are going to call me on my shit. I have to be able to look back at my record and recognize where, you know, what my hits were and what my misses were, and what did I get right with my hits and what did I get right with my misses. You know, in the same way that you look back at hands you've played, you can't just assume you did something right on the hands you won and you did something wrong on the hands you lost. You can't be results oriented. You have to be process oriented.
I think that's
just having people you trust. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think process-oriented thinking is like one of the most undervalued tools that that gets overlooked, especially not just in the poker community, but like in the real world too.
Totally. I mean, it's so funny whenever I think of process-oriented versus results-oriented. I immediately think of Annie Duke, who has coined her own version of results-oriented thinking. She calls it resulting. And as tilting as that is, and as much as she is hated by the poker community, like I actually think her materials, her books now, I think are actually like hit upon these topics about how to think about the world and how to be a rational person. I'm in the middle of Nate Silver's new book. It could be the case that Nate's renders Annie's obsolete. I know that's the hope for a lot of people. But I think resources like that can be really useful. This is something you have to work at. And I think that as much as people like talk about, being in the lab and wanting to improve in poker, the same stuff is required when it comes to like knowledge acquisition and acquiring wisdom and becoming sharp in areas outside of poker. But it's not fun. It's not fun to research, the veracity of a claim. It's not fun to find good sources or to have like a diverse information diet or to curate your feed so it's high quality sources and not the garbage that's given to you on the for you, the algorithm that is like specifically designed to upset you.
All right, so I guess like digging into that a little bit further, like what took you down this path of like wanting to challenge so much of the non-truths that are being spread? I know at the forefront of this discussion, we talked about you've transitioned out of poker. For those who don't know, you've been in the game for probably nearly as long as I have, nearly 20 years. You transitioned into economics, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah. I got a PhD in economics in California, in Santa Cruz. Finished that coming up on 2 years ago. Started studying econ like in 2012. I was living in Sacramento at the time. And so I know all the people involved in the Mike Postle scandal, including Mike himself. I was playing with Mike a lot at that time. So I started a master's there. And I think that with Black Friday and also recognizing like the writing on the wall that poker would not be easy forever. And I think that like that prediction has largely been borne out, that like hourlies have dropped, for most people, I think in the last decade or so. I think that I knew that I needed to start thinking about, the transition away from poker. And I've at various times over the last, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years, like tried to help other poker players who were interested in that, because that's like kind of a side project of mine, is to try to help people who, because I think it's really difficult to leave poker. I think it has like a massive gravitational pull. I think it can feel really easy at times, and that's tempting because transitioning out of it's hard. And by and large, I mean, I'm sure this is something that rings true to you, but like people avoid doing hard shit, and that's where the freedom comes, is doing the hard shit.
we can have a whole show on that one.
Easy life. Yeah, hard choices, easy life. Easy choices, hard life.
I guess tugging a little bit on the transitioning out part, because this is something I wrestle with as well. How do you juggle the future earning potential of staying versus shifting into a career that you haven't invested much time or experience into, and then mapping out like how to arrive at a comparable, if not greater than, earning potential?
Oh man, I mean there's a lot to answer there. I would say that, I mean, people have to be realistic about their hourlies. And I think that the people who are realistic about them have probably noticed that they've largely declined. I don't have like mass data to support this, but I think anecdotally I've had this confirmed. I think it's going to vary based on the person and the experience. Like my general heuristics here is, if you haven't finished college, like that's probably something you should start with. I think thinking about, what it is you're interested in, start talking to people who do things that are interesting to you. There's a pretty vast network of poker players who have moved on to other things. Certain industries are more populated with poker players than others. Like trading is probably the number one occupation that people go into. Certainly the one I've heard about the most. But there's lots of other things that one can go into, and there's certainly a way to spin poker positively on a resume. I think it does well with anything quantitative. I think it does well with anything that's like high stakes or requires, understanding of human psychology or relationships. Sales, I think, would be a great example. And then I think that to the best of your ability, you can try to juggle, the roadmap for transitioning out while you're still playing. Like, I think that maybe switching like cold turkey is probably not the way to go. But yeah, I mean, if for anyone who's interested in this or like is struggling to figure out how to get out, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, and I have some advice that's kind of customized to the individual.
Yeah, I honestly, like, not that you're looking for another job, but if ever there's an opening for some creative, I guess, like business building, I think whether you call it like a mentor or like, what's the word I'm looking for? I've lost my mind, but basically somebody, an advisor of sorts, of how to transition out. I imagine, consultant. Thank you. I imagine that there would be a lot of people interested in that, because the struggle really isn't for the person making $40 an hour, right? Like, the game is just going to force them out at some point anyway, and they'll find plenty $40 an hour jobs that are available to them. So the irony is that it's not that difficult of a transition for somebody who's not making very much money. It becomes very challenging if you're a $200 an hour guy who's unhappy, right? Or even greater than, like, if you're a $1,000 an hour guy, but you can't really get in the same volume that you used to. These are difficult things to measure, because you're talking about, like, transitioning into the C-suite of an already established company at that sort of hourly, and it's just not really available. And that's not to say that you can't obviously start lower and work your way up, but those paths are very unclear, especially the older that you get. Like, there was a point maybe in my arrogant 20s or slightly bit on the come down in my early 30s where I thought I had a certain skill set or a certain aptitude for certain things, and maybe I would have if I really pulled at the thread and dove in head first. But when you kind of stress it a bit, and building a business really shined a light on this, spending the better part of 7 years like building a business really shines a light on how you're not as adequate at these things that you may think that you are on the surface just because you can perform certain tasks. It's a humbling experience, man, and it's not easy going from making high 6 figures, low 7 figures a year to taking an entry level position at like $80K.
Yeah, man, if you're looking for sympathy for the guy who's making $1,000 an hour, I don't know if I'm your guy.
Guapo loved that one, I know.
I think if you looked at a distribution of like poker earnings from people who have been in the game for a while, I think you're going to see like a massive bunching in like the $25 to $50 an hour range. And that's the person that I am interested in helping, because that transition is possible, but it feels difficult, especially for someone who hasn't been working for a long time. I mean, I was just talking to someone a few days ago, someone in Vegas who's been, in and out of poker for a long time, and would occasionally grab, dealing or flooring jobs, when he was busto, and he needs a plan to get out of the game, but it has such pull. And I really do have a lot of sympathy for people who can't seem to escape it. I wanted to starting in like 2013, 2014, and it wasn't until 2024, I guess, until I was able to get out. And the game gave me so much, and I'm really appreciative for that. But I do know that there's a lot of people that while they're playing in their 20s and 30s, or maybe their early 40s, they don't want to be in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. And I guess, like, expanding upon that a little bit further, whether you choose to stay in the game or not, you kind of mentioned that the game does kind of give you a lot. If you ever even get to the point of being a break-even player, you develop certain skill sets, certain framework for thinking and problem solving that I personally believe is worth its weight in gold in the real world. Like, I come from a mindset that I think poker players would be incredibly valuable in a lot of different areas in real world scenarios, but because of the easy choice, hard life, hard choice, easy life mentality, I think too many of them fall into the I'm doing this because it's easy, like press the easy button type of mentality, and that in and of itself makes them function very poorly. Bringing that back to the initial point of the conversation, I think that that's ultimately why you see so much misinformation spread by incredibly intelligent people. It's just very fucking easy and very lazy. So I'm kind of curious, like you mentioned curating your own timeline of more truthful sources and, being a little bit more vigilant in how you express yourself and ensuring that, you kind of dot your I's and cross your T's. What's that process look like for you? Like, I know you shared this infographic with me. Maybe that's a good place to start. But how do you ensure that the things that you're interested in are kind of, I guess, seen through a lens of more truthfulness rather than just whatever fancies your eye?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately the $1 million question. So, I mean, starting with the news sources. So there's this infographic, and I don't know how easily you guys can pull it up, but this is something that's produced, I think, on an annual basis, maybe even more frequently. But it's a distribution. It's got like news sources that are the x-axis is like political spectrum, left to right, but the y-axis is, I think it's like accuracy or credibility. And I think trying to stay in the center towards the top should be the goal. And then if you want to consider left and right perspectives, just staying on the top part of the graph. I've shared this on Twitter, and if people want to find it there. But I think that has some sources
Guapo can pull it up. It's in the asset chat.
Yeah. So, I think things that are on there like, Pew Research and BBC, Reuters, AP, like these are boring news sources, but they are trustworthy.
So what, in your opinion, makes them trustworthy? Because I know that, I know enough with the political landscape being the way it is. They're not just going to accept ABC, NBC, CNN, CBS, BBC as cited sources, and I'm basically playing devil's advocate here. I truly don't know if these are good sources or not because I don't spend enough time on this stuff. What, in your opinion, allows these media outlets to be more qualified? Like, mainstream media has kind of a bad rap right now, I would say.
I think it's largely undeserved, and I think there's a crisis of credibility and trustworthiness in experts across like every domain, and I don't know how much of that's deserved. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting, in some of the notes I was writing down before we started this, I was thinking to myself, it's interesting that in poker, like we're so good at finding the oracles of truth or the people that we're willing to trust when it comes to poker strategy. Like, people trust you, people trust Doug Polk, people trust Phil Galfond, people trust Pads, and so on and so forth. Why do they trust them? Because they've demonstrated results. All of you have demonstrated results. And so like the proof is in the pudding. I think news organizations have done the same thing, but for whatever reason, the people zoom in on maybe the occasional mistake that's made. Right. If you on any given story that the New York Times reports, if you laid, I don't know, 500 to 1, the story was right, you'd be printing. Mm-hmm. So like, if that's the case, then why are we so critical of this particular outlet? And I would say the same for a lot of others. But when you start getting into stuff that it's not credible, and it's the random link that was found on the internet, or it's the TikTok video from some guy who's flying a helicopter in North Carolina who says the government's not responding to the hurricane, we should not be so quick to trust the random guy on TikTok, but we are.
Yeah, it's interesting,
and that's unfortunate.
You think it just feeds into our own bias, though? Like,
well, yes, for sure. I think that's a great point.
Right, because like,
people. I think we trust people over news organizations.
That's truly it. I think it comes down to the grassroots aspect of it. Like, we trust the mom and pop store more than Walmart, which is incredible because we actually don't. We truly don't. Like, if you look at the way we spend, and even if you think about like where you choose to spend your dollars, like if given the choice between driving 3 miles to a mom and pop shop or driving 3 miles to a Walmart, you'll take Walmart 100% of the time because you know you're going to get what you went for.
Right.
100%. There's confidence there.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily know what you're going to get in the mom and pop. And I think that's a good parallel to like what Barber's saying here. If you look at this infograph, we almost trust the sources in the exact inverse as how they're laid out.
We do, yeah.
Like when you start to look at the least fact-checked, the least reliable ones, Joe Rogan like starts to toe that line.
That's what stood out to me the most is that TMZ it was way higher than I thought it would be, and Joe Rogan was way lower than I thought it would be.
Right. If you look at it, we trust the individuals. Look where all the podcasts lie on this spectrum, right?
Well, that's why people get mad at you, right?
Kind of, yeah.
They trust you, and then you're saying things that you think are fact, but you're saying, I'm not saying this is fact.
And that's fair, too, because it doesn't matter how many times I say, I'm here shooting. So here's a funny, maybe I ran this by you. I'm not sure if I did or didn't, but even if I didn't, we can still discuss it really quickly. Tim Pool's assistant reached out to me, and he wanted to do a podcast where he flew me into West Virginia in his studio or whatever, and he wanted the nature of the podcast to be women in poker. Now, I don't follow Tim Pool. So I only know him from a couple Rogan appearances. I just know he leans right. That was about as far as it went. So I start to dig in a little bit. I noticed that he followed me, which was very surprising. So he must be like kind of into poker. But then I go through his timeline, and it's just like the whole thing is just like anti-women. And so I reply and I say, hey, I don't think I'm the most. I don't think I'm the best person to choose for this panel by any stretch, either from what you're looking for or from representing women. Like, you should reach out to this list of women instead, and I gave them a list. But then B, it's just like, what's the pretense to this conversation, you know? And I think that that's what the audience tends to forget, is that there's a motive behind these podcasts they could put out. He asked me probably because he thought I was a bro who would just go on and agree. I assume anyway, right? And if he thought that I was going to like hard object, then he probably thought that there was an opportunity to just dunk on me in a public sphere. Either way, it seems to me that there was already a slant to the proposition that was being laid out. It wasn't a good faith, hey, let's have two sides of an argument on here and discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one thing that's unfortunate about the podcasting space is Sam Harris speaks to this a lot, but like the problem of audience capture. So once you have an audience and they start to expect certain viewpoints, expressed by you, that you kind of have to meet those. And if you ever say something that is going to be contradictory to that, or if you ever change your mind on something, or if you ever take an inconvenient position, you're going to lose your audience.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore is a good example of that.
The funding,
right. Like he started off
requires that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Right. But you see that a lot. Like you see like where they have a certain position and opinions on certain things, and they can skew so far the other way. Like you have people that were like pro Bernie, and now they're pro Trump. And it's like, how did you go from Bernie to Trump? But like you see like the audience, what they want, and you need the clicks, and you need to stay afloat. So you feed them what you want, just like
so essentially you're pandering.
Yeah, in a way.
Yes, basically. Unfortunately, I mean, and I think that this is where I really want to like encourage poker players to. This is where you should apply your skepticism, which is like what is this person's agenda? Like what are this person's what are the incentives that they're facing?
Right.
I think with the story about Tim Pool and who was like funding him, I think is a really good reality check that someone who was seen as independent is clearly not, But and I don't want to pick on the right wing in particular. Like that was something I really wanted to be cognizant of, that I think oftentimes I have like this label as being left wing, but like I grew up in the Republican Party. I was a conservative in college. I wrote for a college Republican newspaper. And I really, really want to, as much as I can, consider myself like an independent and someone who evaluates issues and stories, not with a partisan lens, which is obviously very difficult to do, but it's something everyone can aspire to.
Yeah.
But to not have opinions reflexively just based on political ideology. There are things about the Republican Party that are great. There are things that Donald Trump has done that are good and defensible. There are things that Biden and Kamala Harris have done that are quite shitty. And both sides have told lies. But I don't want to make the mistake of, because both sides have made mistakes, means that they're equally bad. And that is the thing that I see amongst a lot of poker players, is this false equivalence.
Yes.
I'm guilty of that.
So lazy.
I'm definitely guilty of that. I mean, I think that they're varying degrees, but I do think that like the two-party system
and there's dumpster fire mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that we can't draw the equivalence between those two. It's, I chose the bet size wrong by a small amount, and it's like I shoved the river in a spot where it's always a check back.
Yeah. We have a phrase for that I always forget.
It's not an inaccuracy. It's not an error, it's an inaccuracy.
Right. Yeah. Error versus inaccuracy.
Right. Exactly.
I gotta get this like tattooed on my arm or something. I love the phrase so much I never fucking remember it. I remember the sentiment. Yeah.
Gotta get it framed.
Anything else that you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Is that Outlive on your desk right there?
Yep. It sure is. I'm
Thank
trying
you,
to dive when I'm 150. I'm just trying to make it to the singularity, Barber. Sauna every day, cold pool. Just merge me with the AI and let's fucking cook.
You might only have to live like 20 more years.
That's what I'm saying.
According to Ray Kurzweil.
This is Rhonda Patrick. DNA damage sucks.
Okay, I like that.
Nice.
Your inner nerd is showing.
For supporting. By the way, this is something I wanted to mention. So I think I told you when you were in Pittsburgh that I was taking Mounjaro, and for anyone who's struggling to lose weight, this stuff is magic. I mean, I cannot promote this stuff enough. I was promoting it before, and then some people said you shouldn't be promoting something you've never taken. And I said that's a good point. So I decided to experiment with it, and holy shit!
Oh, it definitely works. It's just the long-term side effects is what people I think are concerned about. But that's probably a whole nother conversation.
I think this I think this dovetails really well with like the news and stuff, which is like do your research. I've done a shit ton, and so you can either do your own or you can find people that you think are trustworthy, because I think in the information age it's really hard to do all your research on all the topics. So finding trustworthy people. But I've done a ton of research on it, and I think I know the consequences of being fat. That I know real well.
That's true too.
I think the consequences of taking these GLP-1 agonists are quite minimal.
And we should trust you more because there's no use code Barber when you buy it.
Yeah, no affiliate code yet. Although I am very tempted because I've probably gotten half a dozen people to start taking this.
How are the T levels? That's the real question.
As someone who, in the middle of a Twitter debate, once pulled up my blood work, my T levels are quite strong, my friend.
Okay, all right. You out here DMing people some inappropriate stuff?
They're not Nick Vertucci levels, but I mean,
he's probably over 1,000, but I think I'm somewhere between 800 and 900.
800 or 900 is
pretty
strong.
Once you hit the 4 digits is when you start sending the creepy DMs.
Yeah, that's true.
Watch out.
Well, I'd love to have you on again. And honestly, like, I'd be happy to make this a routine thing. You're one of my favorite people to talk to. I think we could have a pretty good discussion on the weight loss route, everything in and around these GLP antagonists as well. I'm probably not as educated on it as you, but I'm willing to read up. I have some thoughts.
Well, you don't have to, because you're already looking good. You're
fair
good in the body.
But the thing is that I want to be on the right side of their use case, right? because they're certainly valuable, whether it's just for diabetics or it's actually for overall weight loss. I recognize the power that they have. And at first I was really bullish like you were. I was like, man, if I was at all overweight, like this would just be a no-brainer. I started to get a little bit more bearish whenever I saw the lollipop heads appearing in Hollywood, and it seemed like everybody was just lazily taking this drug to shed some fat and in turn like losing all their muscle mass as well. So there's a lot that I want to look into before I really get into a heated debate about it in some sort of way. But I'm very open. Like, I don't have a strong stance one way or the other. I do agree wholeheartedly with you that I think obesity is one of the worst diseases that we just accept.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, as someone who's been in poker for so long, I've found myself saying at the, going to the World Series every year, you have like 1 year between seeing people, and I am seeing all of my friends. I'm sorry, friends who are listening to this. I am seeing all of my friends get fatter every year. And right. I think that's saddening. I think poker has obviously been associated with ill health for a long time, unless you're, cream skimming and you're finding the, elites in the community. But on average, I think people are getting bigger and bigger and less healthy and less healthy. Yeah. And so I think that I think these injectables are your break glass in case of emergency, resort. It's the last option, but I think everyone is already at their last option.
Yeah, it's a microcosm of America as a whole.
Of course,
man. Having done some traveling, I'll tell you what, we get overserved here. I look like fucking Andre the Giant walking into to the Middle East. Like, where's my food? They're like, sir, we don't have enough for you. Like, all right, my bad. I'll eat the small portions. All right, yeah, let's get you out of here on that note. Again, I would love to do this more routinely if you're up for it. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire since you're currently live and you can't back out now.
That's right.
We got him right where we want him.
We got him. Yep.
We got you where we want you, buddy.
I'm in. Whenever I'm invited, I'll be there.
Okay, perfect. I'll be in touch. Enjoy that Pittsburgh weather. I heard it's 75 and sunny. I saw Big Ben out on the golf course last week. Not a cloud in the sky.
How about last night, though? That was crazy.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
Except for the huge storm that came flying through.
Yeah, it fucked us.
It wasn't a cloud. It was a big, big cloud.
I feel bad for all the people in Pittsburgh who had to stay up till 2 a.m. to watch the Steelers lose.
Yeah.
Bills would have never lost if there was no rain.
No shot, but bro, they would have won by 30.
98%.
We'll talk about copium next time when you come back.
I'm rolling my eyes.
All right, Barber. Appreciate you as always.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.
See you.
See you, Andrew.
Thanks.
That was a nice palate cleanser.
Yeah,
I appreciate being able to put Vertucci conversation up against Barber's intellect. Yeah. It's not. I'm sure the audience was like, "What the fuck is going on here? We were talking about pencil dicks, and now you're expecting me to do some sort of math equation on how to measure my BMI." All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. We'll have a lot more. I'm certain that this isn't just going to go away, so we're very likely to talk about it more tomorrow.
Sure.
Tomorrow we are joined by Jesse Sylvia.
He'll have some thoughts.
He's going to be in the studio. He's got some thoughts. I need to confirm with him. So I have a starting seat at 10 a.m. If Jesse can make it at 6, we're going to do a nighttime show. If he can't, then we'll just do the normal time, and he'll host in my place, I guess. But very, very likely we're going to do an evening show tomorrow, 6 p.m. So be sure to tune into that. We're going to discuss the Bloomberg article of the bot farm that was recently discovered, written about firsthand account. I guess they talked to the actual owner of said bot farm, and he gave all of the cryptic details. So be sure to tune in for that tomorrow. Jesse tomorrow. Wednesday, we're going to be joined by Mark Goon. So look forward to that. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out the Academy. We're running back-to-back Academies in November. This will be, help me out, November 12th?
12th to the 14th is the cash, and then the 15th to the 18th is the elite. So the cash is a 3-day, the elite is a 4-day.
Right. So for anybody who's unaware, the Cash Academy is our standard 3-day academy. Theory talk in the morning, gameplay on the RFID table in the afternoon. The Elite Academy is Poker Out Loud style. It's for people who have already attended the regular academy. That's a prerequisite. We're only taking 9 individuals. So if you've come to an academy in the past and you'd like to come again in the future, be sure to go sign up now.
Seats, so.
Okay, we only have a couple more. They're going fast. We will run a second one if we get enough interest. So be sure to check that out. Head over to academy.solveforwhy.io if you're looking to sign up. Also, Matt Hunt's new course is out, Bounty Hunting. Be sure to check that out at solveforwhy.io. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you guys all tomorrow.
Later, squad.
Peace. Good team.